Before banks existed, before interest rates, before central banks, one ancient civilization discovered a secret that would shape power for centuries. Control the gold, and you control the world. In the ancient Near East, gold was not simply jewelry or decoration. It was the ultimate store of value, durable, rare, and universally desired. Kingdoms fought wars for it. Rulers measured their prestige by it. And for more than 1,000 years, one kingdom held an advantage that few others could rival. Ancient Egypt did not merely trade gold. It produced it. Welcome to Finverse Stories, where the money trails of history reveal the truths modern finance still runs on. The geography of Puerto. Understand how Egypt built one of the earliest resource-based financial systems in history. You have to start with geography. The Nile Valley itself held little precious metal. Egypt's legendary gold came from two directions, south and east. To the south lay Nubia, stretching across what is today southern Egypt and northern Sudan. To the east lay the rugged, scorching mountains of the eastern desert. Separating the Nile from the Red Sea, both regions held something extraordinary: gold-bearing quartz veins buried deep within the desert rock. The Egyptians knew about these deposits remarkably early. In fact, the Egyptian word for gold, Nub, almost certainly gave Nubia its name. For the pharaohs, Nubia was not just a territory. It was a vault. The machine behind the metal. Finding gold was the easy part. Extracting it was something else entirely. The deposit sat far from water and fertile land. Temperatures climbed to levels that made sustained labor nearly unbearable. And yet Egyptian rulers organized large-scale mining operations in these remote regions for centuries. This was not individual prospecting. This was a state project. Mining expeditions were planned by the royal administration. Workers were assembled from across the kingdom and marched into the desert under the supervision of officials and soldiers. Water had to be stored or located in rare desert wells. Entire temporary settlements appeared around mining sites, communities built for one purpose alone: extracting precious metal from the earth. Archaeological remains in the eastern desert confirm just how extensive these operations became. Stone crushing installations, grinding areas, and worker camps that once housed hundreds, sometimes thousands of laborers have been uncovered at ancient mining sites. Labor came from multiple sources. Skilled specialists handled the technical extraction. Conscripted workers came from the Egyptian population. And many were prisoners of war, for whom the gold mines were not opportunity, but punishment. The Greek historian Diodorus Siculus later wrote about these mines with a mixture of fascination and horror. Men, women, and even children labored in confined tunnels, crushing rock with stone hammers, grinding fragments into powder, then washing the powder repeatedly until the heavier gold particles separated from the dust. Brutal, relentless, and remarkably productive, the Treasury system, Egypt's version of a central bank, here is where the Finverse story really begins. Egypt's economy, for most of its ancient history, did not run on coins. Coins would only arrive later, under foreign rule. Instead, Egyptian wealth was measured by weight. Gold, silver, and copper were valued using standardized units, such as the deben, used in trade and accounting. This meant gold functioned less like everyday currency and more like what we might call today a state-controlled reserve asset. Pharaohs stored enormous quantities of gold in royal treasuries and temple complexes. From these reserves, gold could be deployed strategically, rewarding loyal officials, funding monumental construction, financing military campaigns, or cementing diplomatic alliances. The mines produced it. The treasury stored it. The pharaoh decided where it would flow. Sound familiar? It should. That is essentially the logic of a central bank, except 3,000 years older. Gold as foreign policy. Egypt's gold advantage was perhaps most powerful on the international stage. Across the ancient Near East, gold was highly prized but scarce. Babylon, Mitanni, the Hittite Empire, all had valuable resources of their own. But few could match Egypt's ability to produce gold consistently and in volume. The clearest evidence of this comes from the Amarna letters, a collection of clay tablets discovered in Egypt containing diplomatic correspondence from the 14th century BCE, during the reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten, written in Akkadian, the diplomatic language of the era. These tablets preserve conversations between the Egyptian court and rulers across the Near East. One theme appears again and again: gold. Foreign kings repeatedly write requesting shipments of it. One Babylonian ruler states plainly that gold in Egypt is as plentiful as dust. Whether accurate or not, that statement reveals something important to Egypt's reputation as the region's gold treasury was itself a form of power. The king of Babylon complains in one letter that a previous shipment of Egyptian gold was smaller than promised. A ruler from Mitanni writes requesting gold to fund his own political ambitions. These letters read less like ancient curiosities and more like modern state-to-state financial negotiations. Gold could seal alliances. Gold could reward vassals. Gold could accomplish what armies sometimes could not. Egypt had effectively become the financial center of the ancient Near East, not through banks or markets, but through control over the region's most coveted asset, the vulnerability built into the system. But here is the lesson that every investor and economist recognizes immediately. When you build power around a critical resource, that resource becomes both your greatest advantage and your greatest vulnerability. Egypt's gold system worked as long as the state maintained control over Nubian territory, control over desert routes, control over the labor required to extract the metal. Military garrisons guarded desert roads. Fortified outposts protected gold caravans. Traveling north toward the Nile, officials were appointed specifically to manage extraction and ensure the metal flowed directly into royal hands, but no empire maintains perfect control forever. During periods of Egyptian weakness, control over Nubia slipped. Local rulers rose. Foreign invaders disrupted caravan routes. When the gold slowed, the effects rippled outward. Diplomatic leverage declined. Construction slowed. Military campaigns became harder to finance. The same resource that made Egypt powerful also revealed how dependent it had become. The modern parallel. This pattern has never left human history. In the 20th century, oil played the same role gold once did for Egypt. Nations controlling large petroleum reserves gained enormous leverage over global markets and political alliances, leverage that shaped wars, toppled governments, and rebuilt economies. Today, rare earth minerals, semiconductor supply chains, and strategic metals carry similar weight. The asset changes. The principle does not. Economic power begins with control over something scarce and valuable. The real lesson. Story of Egypt's gold economy is not simply that the pharaohs sat on valuable mines. It is that they understood how to turn those mines into a system of power. The mines produced the metal. The state organized the labor. The treasury managed the distribution. And the pharaoh deployed that wealth to shape diplomacy, reinforce authority, and project the idea that Egyptian power was both earthly and divine. It was financial strategy ancient style. No interest rates. No central bank policy memos. Just the careful, deliberate management of the one resource the world valued most. Gold gave Egypt influence. Gold gave Egypt leverage. Gold helped sustain one of the longest-lasting civilizations in human history. But the deeper truth is this: wealth is never just about the asset. It is about control. Control over where it comes from. Control over who receives it. Control over the story told about it. Ancient Egypt never built a stock exchange, but it understood something that Wall Street still operates on today. When you control what everyone else needs, you hold a form of power that goes far beyond simple wealth. And for more than 1,000 years, gold flowing from the desert south of the Nile gave Egypt exactly that. This is Finverse Stories, where ancient money meets modern insight. Subscribe so you never miss where the real power was hidden. *.